Hello and welcome to Veterans Perspective. I'm Tom Gellis, a former Marine officer, your host, and today I'm honored to have Scott Heuenfeld, United States Navy from the Vietnam era. Scott, welcome to the show.
Very glad to be here.
Scott, since you're a Vietnam era veteran, what I'd like to do is take you back to the 1960s and your initial experience with induction into the Naval Service. What can you tell us about that?
Well, first off, I got my draft notice on I believe it was the 15th of October, 1965, whereas I went to the Navy and I enlisted. And I got myself a 120-day delay before I had to leave for the service. When I left for the service, we all met up down at the Federal Building down in Pittsburgh. We're organized and taken up the street to the William Penn Hotel where we were put on a bus. And the bus took us out to the airport, and from Pittsburgh we flew into Chicago.
Now, it's my understanding that you're a Bethel Park resident almost your entire life.
We moved out to Bethel in 1957.
So when you got the word that your induction, was it an induction notice? Is that what you got?
Yes.
Okay, when you got that, you were a Bethel Park resident, so you had to physically go from Bethel to downtown Pittsburgh, correct?
I believe I went to Carnegie.
Okay, and you got processed there?
I got enlisted there.
Okay, and then was there a processing phase in your induction where you went through the paperwork back here?
Yes, that's what starts at the Federal Building.
Okay, downtown.
When your day comes.
Okay, and then from that point, they put you onto a bus, got you out to the airport?
And flew us into Chicago.
So you went to, my understanding now, boot camp for at least that time was at Great Lakes, Illinois?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about your experiences in Navy boot camp out there at Great Lakes?
They break you down and rebuild you. And it was quite cold.
Now you folks, you had other enlistees that were from all over the country, correct?
Yes.
Had you had any military experience, Boy Scouts or anything like that, or was this your first introduction to the military lifestyle?
This was my first induction, and I was the first one in my family
to go. So it was a truly new experience for you.
Yes, I had an older brother. He came through the draft as 4F, health reasons. My father was the same way for World War II. So I was the first one that was accepted and taken in.
Are there any experiences there in boot camp during that 13 weeks that so many years removed stick out in your head?
Yes, I couldn't march then, and I can't march now. I know I got booted in the butt a whole bunch of times in the snowdrift because when I marched, I bounced.
I know the Army, KP in the Army, was there some sort of discipline such as KP at Navy boot camp? What type of punishment was there for a boot that could not march? What did they?
You got kicked in the butt.
Literally.
And yep, and then get back in line and start over and try to keep up with the rest of the guys because the rest of the guys are going to pay for your screw-ups also. What
was the unit organization? What was it? What were you guys designated there in the?
I think it was just called a company then.
Okay.
And my best memory was about 30 to 35.
And you were under a chief? Is that who you were? In the Marines or Army, you had drill instructors that were sergeants or staff sergeants. Were there chiefs that were the drill instructors?
Yes.
You folks?
Not all were chiefs, but some of the lower class, first class, something like that. But we had a master chief as our DI, as we call him.
Now, at some point, you got your stuff together and you were able, I'm assuming, to march at least halfway decent as you got towards the end of your 13 weeks. As you progressed through the boot camp and it got easier, I'm assuming, towards the end, are there any memories that stick out as you move towards graduation?
I got out of graduation because I was a good floor man, and we had to make our barracks 100% before we could leave, and due to the fact that I was still not a good marcher.
Okay.
I was a good floor man, so the chief sent me and about 3 other guys to do the barracks while the rest of the guys went to graduation, which it didn't really bother me. I didn't want to be there.
So after graduation now, what was the process after you graduated? I'm assuming they might have given you some pay for you to get from point A to point B. What was your MOS for military occupational specialty in the Marines. That's what I know. The rate, is it a rate in the Navy? What did you come out of boot camp as? Or did you have to go to some type of school to get your ratings?
Seaman apprentice.
Okay, coming out.
Coming out. Okay. And I believe it's 6 to 9 months after that, you were eligible to become a seaman, and that's when you start for your rate. When I enlisted for 3 years, promised no schooling. I wanted to be a cook.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was your desire, was to be a cook in the Navy?
Yes.
Now, is there anything from your background that made you want to be a cook?
I worked for Kroger Company, started right here in Bethel Park. I figured my background in groceries, and I could become a butcher.
After boot camp, where did you go?
We came home for 15 days leave, and then my first assignment was a Naval Air Station in Brunswick, Georgia.
Let me ask you about when you came home. What was it like coming home from boot camp, being the first one in your family going into the military?
A little strange. I had no idea what to expect in boot camp. I still had no idea what to expect when I got to my first duty station.
And that was coming back to Bethel Park, correct?
Yes.
Now, I know that your time in the 60s was a tumultuous time in America. Had that, the rioting and all of the anti-war stuff, was it
It was
prevalent?
too early.
Too early, okay.
It was too early.
Okay. So there was no animosity or anything. And I just can't see that in Bethel Park. But there was, you experienced none of that we see that occurred later on with the Vietnam.
Yeah.
Not in Bethel, though.
Not necessarily in Bethel.
Okay, but you did experience some of
Yes.
that anti-military. Okay, and we'll get to that later on. Let's take you down to you went to Georgia.
Yes.
Okay, and where did you end up down there in Georgia?
Well, I got my first assignment was they call it Special Services. I had 4 ball fields that I took care of, had my own tractor. I did that for about 90 days, and I went to my officer and said, I would like to transfer to the galley. I want to learn how to be a cook. And the job I had was like, this is heaven. And he couldn't understand why, but he did let me do it. So I got transferred into the kitchen and started learning how to become a cook. I spent a lot of time in training, learning how to use the various pieces of equipment. One of the things that strikes me is everybody said, "Cookie, you make great coffee." I said, "I don't know, I don't drink it." I've never touched coffee to this day.
Is that right?
Yeah. There's only one person in my family. My sister picked it up, but I was a Coke and Pepsi guy.
Okay. Now, did you learn how now, had you cooked prior to going down there?
I cooked a little bit at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in the training there for cooks, did you learn about scrambled eggs? Did you have to make grits down there in the South?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was a
What did you think
daily
of grits?
type
Now,
thing.
did you ever experience grits up here?
No.
Did you ever get into the grits while you were down there?
I learned how to cook them, but never
Never
ate
ate them. Okay. How
But
about eggs over easy? I always remember the cooks doing very well. The Marine cooks at the chow halls on base always did extremely good job on the eggs because we had eggs made to order. You know, you wanted sunny side up eggs, eggs over easy, scrambled eggs. The hash browns were very, very good. And I've always been a corned beef hash guy. Mm-hmm. Did you have to make corned beef hash?
Yes, most of it was canned.
Okay.
But I was able to do, I want to say crack 2 eggs in each hand to put them on the grill.
Now, did you pop them this way or just in the hands? Were you able to crack them? Just
No, I popped them.
pop them. Okay, that's impressive. That's impressive. To this day, I have a hard time with just the one egg. Did you ever make the SOS?
Yes.
Okay. And I won't go into the
trick to that is cream sauce. If you could do a good cream sauce, you're going to have good
Now,
SOS.
can you make that to this day and make it?
Boy, I wish I could say I could.
I'm hungry for that. I really am. I love SOS.
I haven't done a lot of cooking, and now I live by myself. I very, very seldom cook.
Was there a lot of spam? I know the World War II guys, a lot of them that I talked to at the Marine Corps League, they just can't stand spam now because they had so much of it. Did you guys?
No, not overly done.
Okay.
And I mean, because we were on land, but basically we had all fresh products.
Gotcha. I love that SOS, though. I can't say enough. I can't go into for the audience, I can't go into the terminology as to what SOS stands for, or at least what we used to call it there. But it's that nice ground meat on with a gravy mix on top of toast. And I just think it's fantastic. To this day, if you could make it, I'd have you make me some, because I love SOS. How much time did you spend it?
In Georgia, I spent a year. And we were there 9 months, and then you put in your wish list for your next duty station.
And what did you, now was there 3 wishes that you could put, 1, 2, and 3?
Yes,
And do you remember what you did?
yes. All 3 Vietnam.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I applaud you for that.
It was where the action was. I was not knowledgeable. I said, well, if I'm going to be here, I might as well be someplace where it counts. And all my friends and buddies did Scotland, Norfolk, all over the world. And the day everybody's orders came back, because we all about the same day, they're all coming into the kitchen, the chow line, and going, oh, geez, I got Vietnam. I got Vietnam. I went, oh, wait a minute. I did too. So I was quite pleased about it. I figured it was something to learn. But once we came out of Georgia, we had to do, oh, geez, I'm going to say this was 6 or 7 weeks of SEER school, survival training.
Okay.
Okay. That was very, very unique in many ways. If you hadn't grown up by then, that schooling was going to do it for you.
And how long was that school?
I think six, maybe 7 weeks.
Okay. And did they take you out of the United States to do that, or did
No.
you do it right in the swamps of Georgia?
We actually did it right outside of D.C.
I'll be darned.
and an offshoot of Virginia, but you would have swore you were in the jungle.
It wasn't Quantico by chance, was it?
I honestly don't know that.
Okay. And what experience there sticks out all these years later?
Everybody had a string with a number hanging around their neck, because all you were wearing were your skivvies.
Okay.
And in our class, when we graduated, they called 4 numbers to the front of the class. And I was one of those numbers. Those were the numbers that got picked on.
Oh.
Oh, gee, thank you. But it taught me a lot, made it through it. So then it's time to go to the next step.
And I know we use the terminology or the acronym SEER, and I believe that stands for this, our audience, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape.
Yes.
And they would have taught you in all 4 of those areas what you would need to do in a jungle-type environment or other environments to keep you alive.
Correct.
You know,
Yep.
You know, what it would take. And a lot of those things are brought forward to this day. SEER school still exists in the United States military.
Yep.
So, and that would have been, even for your young age, and again, you were not a boot anymore, you had some time in, but my understanding from watching the documentaries on SEER school, it's a tough school.
Oh, it is.
So I applaud you for making it through and surviving it.
My mother had talked to a friend of hers, and her husband was, we called a lifer, and she was questioning him about school. And all he said to her was, I went through it once, I would get out before I'd go through it again.
So you went through that before you were shipped overseas, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from the time that you did your wish list until the time you found out that you actually got Vietnam and were going to be shipped out, what was the process of getting you from Georgia over to Vietnam? Can you take our audience through your experience?
That was all plane. We flew home from Georgia. We flew down into Virginia, flew back home from Virginia, and I believe we had another 15 days leave. It wasn't really leave, it was travel time.
Okay.
Because you had travel time to get from Pittsburgh to San Francisco.
Okay.
And they figured you did that by vehicle. Okay? So if you flew,
you had some gravy
you had
time,
some gravy time
out there. So you ended up going from Pittsburgh to San Francisco. Was that your point of embarkation?
Yes.
And from what you're saying now, it wasn't by ship. You flew overseas?
Oh, yes.
Now, from San Francisco, what kind of stops did you make between San Francisco and Vietnam?
Boy, if my memory's correct, we flew from San Francisco to the Philippines and refueled in the Philippines straight into Saigon.
And that was Ton Son at that time,
Yes.
correct? Ton Son Air
Yep.
Base. Now, when you walked off the plane, was it one of those, other than SEER school, because it might have been hot during SEER school in the Virginia countryside, but not as hot as Vietnam. Was it one of those, as I've seen on documentaries, that humidity engulfs you? Is that what your experience was when you got off the aircraft?
Yes. and not ever seeing, quote unquote, a war zone. You're coming off the plane, you walk out and you go, oh my God, what I get myself into.
Is that right?
And the smell, I've heard it on a documentary once by a nurse that said she walked out and all she could, the heat hit her, and then the smell of aviation fuel and the smell of death. And she said she never forgot it.
So you flew in, and I'm trying now to get my hands around as naval personnel. You folks flew into Ton Son Nhut. Where did they take you then? Because I have to believe that you ended up at a naval facility somewhere in South Vietnam.
Yes.
So what was your initial time like there once you landed, and until you got to your
We landed
duty station?
In the evening. I know it was dark. We were taken immediately by bus to a military hotel in Saigon. And getting on the bus was a treat because all the windows were barbed wired.
Is that
I
right?
went, oh, very different.
Very different.
We got to the hotel, stayed overnight. The next morning, we were taken probably back to Ton Son Nhut and given our assignments. I always say I was in the Brownwater Navy. I got hooked up with the PBRs, the River Patrol boats. I was 45 miles southwest of Saigon, a town called Vinh Long. So I got there, we landed on the Army base, got in a truck and was taken over to my Navy base. And our home base was about 3 miles from the river. There's a river, they had all the boats docked, and that's where they did all the servicing of them and all that kind of stuff. Why we were that far apart, I had no idea.
And you went over there, your rate now was a cook. You were a cook at this time?
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I was still a seaman with no designator.
Okay.
Okay. So when I checked in, I lucked out. The chief in charge of the base was a commissary chief.
Ah.
Okay. And I told him I had just spent my last 8 months learning to be a cook in a Naval Air Station. He said, great, you're my new night cook.
I'll be darned. So that was good for you.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
I started that evening. I worked 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., basically 7 days a week.
Wow. Now, on board ship, I've always encountered the term mid-rats. Did you guys have mid-rats there as part of your rotation there from 6 p.m.? That was like a midnight type?
Not so much that. We had the river patrol boats
Okay.
going in and going out. So you fed the crews coming in,
Okay.
going.
Gotcha. Is there anything that they liked more than anything else? Or they were just happy to get hot chow?
No, everybody seemed pretty happy with the food and the chow we made for them.
And did you have access to mostly American food? I mean, it was just being like a commissary? Were you able to get steak, eggs, bacon?
Through supplies,
Okay.
yes. Some of it was of an older age,
Okay.
had been frozen for quite some time.
Is that right? Was there any Vietnamese dishes that you picked up that you learned how to cook while you were over there?
Not really.
No, okay.
We had some Vietnamese ladies that worked in the galley as setting tables, cleaning up, serving the troops.
As you started your duties as a cook, did you start off as a jack of all trades and then work yourself into a specialty? How did that work out for you over there?
Being the night cook, I could do the meals, and some of the meals we had carryover, okay? But I will never forget when the Tet Offensive started, the night before. The enemy had gone into Vinh Long and blown up the bakery. We were buying our breads, okay? I remember coming down to go to work that evening, and the chief said, "You're going to bake bread tonight." I went, "I've never baked bread in my life." Well, everything we do is on a card, recipe card, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah. He said, "Read the card." I said, "Okay." Well, my first night I baked 50 loaves of bread that didn't make it until lunch, because everybody said, "Wow, this is
stuff.
good, this is different." doesn't have bugs in it. So from that night on, I probably baked between 75 and 100 every night.
Is that right?
And no proof boxes. You didn't need them. We were baking in diesel fuel burning ovens.
Wow.
It was a treat.
Now, did that odor permeate, or the diesel fuel? Was there any taste of that?
If it did, we were just so used to it, we didn't notice it.
Didn't notice. Was there another? So you became a baker.
Yes.
Other than the baking of the bread, which appears to be a specialty of yours now, since the men liked it, was there anything else that you could claim as something that Scott Huenfeld can claim fame to as a specialty, food-wise?
No, I mean, I did cakes, pies, pineapple upside down cake, and that.
Were you able to do blueberry pies? That used to be my favorite when I was younger. Blueberry pie.
Didn't have enough frozen blueberries.
Gotcha. Now, that's a good question though. So, a pie that you would bake, would it apple pie? Is that what your standard was?
Apple, cherry,
Okay.
pumpkin when we get to holidays.
The guys, I'm sure, would not.
Coconut
The men
cream.
aren't going to complain as long as they're getting again good chow. You know,
Now, we didn't have a whole lot of complaints.
I can believe that. I can believe that. As you wound down now, the Tet Offensive, let me go back to that. The Tet Offensive, all I can go by is what I've seen on documentaries or on television or in movies. What was it like to be over there living through that history?
Oh, very strange. I have always been glad that I was there for it. Okay? We were pulled out because we were about to be overrun. So we were all taken down to the river and stuck out on an LST. And I guess the whole event probably took somewhere between 3 to 14 days.
Okay.
Okay. We were only out on the LST for, I believe, 3 days, then came back in and finally went from the river back up to the base.
Okay. So you were able to go back to your base?
Yes.
Okay. Found it relatively intact, or was it banged up?
Oh, it was relatively intact.
Okay.
And the strangest part of this was my age. Okay. I was 21 years old when I went in country. Okay. And that was old. So when basically things hit the fan, everybody's going, Cookie, what do we do? What do we do?
Is that right?
Because I'm the old guy.
Old-timer now, yeah.
And it's like, got no idea,
Yeah.
but we'll make it.
Yeah. Wow. Tell us, after your time in Vietnam, what happened with the rest of your time in the service?
Well, I came home from Vietnam. It was July 3rd. So the next night is July 4th, family celebration.
There you go.
And I will always remember, we had family friends that lived down in Dormont, overlooking the Banksville Shopping Center,
Okay.
where they had fireworks for Dormont every year. The whole family's down on the lawn, sitting there in lawn chairs, and everybody's looking up in the oohs and the ahs. I was standing up on the deck by myself, and my father walks up to me and said, "Are you okay?" And I'm staring at the hillside. And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." First set of fireworks are that tree, next one's that tree, next one's that tree. And he just kind of went, "Oh boy."
And that's from that time over there, you're just able to
Oh yeah.
go. Yeah.
You could spot, you could hear incoming, knew the difference between incoming, outgoing.
Let me ask you this. Again, from the documentaries, the Army guys I know from over there, again, from documentaries, they were in there for 13 months. Was your tour a 13-month tour?
It was all basically somewhere around 365.
Okay.
Because we did the calendar countdown backwards.
Okay, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. How many days you have to go until you're back to the world? Now, did you refer to it as the world when you were over
yes.
there? Okay,
Oh yes, that and across the pond.
gotcha. And were you happy when it came, as you started to count down, how many days I have left? 52 and a wake up, 31 and a wake up, 10 and a wake up.
No, because my particular job, I was not out in the bush.
Okay.
I didn't have it every day. Yeah, we got incoming shells and that kind of nonsense. But I enjoyed my tour, okay, because I felt I was doing something for the guys I was with.
There you go. You came back here, happy to be back home. And how did you out-process from the Navy? Was it close to that time after you came home?
Oh, no. When I came back, I still had a year and a half to do. Landed in San Francisco, and this was the beginning of the not-so-nice country.
Okay, so this is when you experienced some of that negativity?
Oh, yeah.
Or a lot of the negativity, so...
Yeah, especially being West Coast. You could be anywhere from verbally abused to spit on, things thrown at you, the whole bit.
So that was, I could never understand our fellow countrymen doing that to you servicemen, because all you did was you were doing your duty. I just, again, I can't fathom that as an American, why they would do that to a serviceman. It was a different time, though.
It was a
I can't,
much different time.
I can't accept that as an American and as a military veteran myself. I just can't accept that. I don't understand that.
It was hard to believe. And even when I got home, I had my uniform probably 90% off before I ever got in the house.
As I have always said to Vietnam era veterans, you gentlemen and the women did not deserve that. Absolutely not.
It did a lot mentally to the young guys.
Yeah.
Okay, we were young. Okay, all we were doing was what our country told us to do, but we had grown up with such respect for the military veterans, World War II, Korea.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was our turn to wear that uniform and be proud of it. Untrue.
When you finally mustered out, our time is coming to an end here in the interview. I wish we had another 2 hours or 3 hours to chat, but my time is running short. Your out-processing happened here in Pittsburgh?
No, I came back from Nam and went to San Diego, California for 18 months on a subtender.
Okay.
We called that gray painted shore duty.
And did you out-process then in San Diego?
Yes.
And then how did you come across country? Train, plane?
I drove.
Okay.
Because when I came back from Vietnam, I bought myself a muscle car.
I'll be darned.
And drove it across country to get to California. Had it out there the whole time I was there, and then...
You didn't do Route 66 by chance, did you?
No, it was more interstate.
Okay. Very good. Well, Scott, it's a pleasure to have you on here. My understanding, too, and I'd be remiss in not pointing out that our guest tonight is the post commander of VFW Post 764 in McMurray. Is there anything you'd like to say about the post?
I'd like to have some more veterans come down, not only the Vietnam guys or Korea guys, but some of the young guys. And I do realize you're in the process of your life, getting your family together, getting your career together. But please stop in and see us. We just want you to know that when you need us, we'll be there.
Fantastic, Scott. And you're right at the intersection. Your post is at the intersection of McMurray Road and Valley Brook Road.
Yes.
Nice big flagpole there, monument.
Yes.
Good chow, I hear, during the week. Sometimes you have...
We got an Italian cook. We got a special meal every night of the week.
There you go. Scott, thank you for your service, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Glad to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this has been Veterans Perspective. My name is Tom Gellis. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.